These are 10 production tricks I wish I knew when I started, which could help you learn some vital things to help you improve as a producer. I work in Logic, so the examples you see will be in Logic, but I've made sure that all these tricks and tips aren't exclusive to a particular DAW. They're tricks which can be replicated in whichever DAW you use. The first one is something so simple but forgotten by so many. That is to listen to your track or beat without looking. It sounds simple as I said, but it's so important. When we can see what's happening in the track and what's going to happen, we're not listening to it in the same way that the listener or artist is going to listen to it in. So turn away and just listen. That way your brain will concentrate more on the sound rather than what it's looking at. And you might pick things up that you missed before. I often find that this is particularly good for spotting things in the mix and things you need to change in the mix, and also arrangement wise. It's like, I don't know if you guys have ever had this, when like you make something one day, wake up the next day, have kind of forgotten what you made, play it, and then as you're listening to it, it sounds a lot different because you don't really know what's going to happen, and the arrangement kind of feels different. The same thing happens here. When you turn away and just focus on listening to the track, you put yourself in the position of the artist and the listener. Let's keep this fast paced so you guys don't go anywhere. Speaking of arrangement, the next trick is to use reference tracks to arrange your beats. Arrangement is crucial when making and selling beats, and I found over the course of making hundreds and hundreds of beats that the best way to learn how to arrange and to arrange in an effective way is to use reference songs and use their arrangement to inspire your own. I'm not saying directly copy exactly what another song has done, but find a song similar in style to what you've made or what you like making and listen to how they've arranged it. How long the intro is, whether it's arranged as verse, chorus, whether there's a pre-chorus in there, a bridge, how long the chorus is, when they take the drums out, etc. Listening to big songs is one of the best ways to elevate the arrangement of your beats. I found that the quickest way to learn how to make beats that sound professional is by learning from other well-established songs. It can be hard to know how to arrange a beat before you've ever heard the artist that's going to be on the song, before they've recorded anything to it, but that's why you can rely on other songs which have already been created, which already have an artist on them, to inform your decisions in your arrangement, because then you know that an artist can fit on that arrangement that you've done. The next trick, which I'm saying is a trick because it's so underrated, and that is simply using sound effects. Sound effects can add so much to your beats, and not only add to them, but make them feel like they're finished and polished. Where I use them most is the transition between sections. They make it so much more seamless by kind of masking the changes. As well as that though, they add to the intensity. A riser before the chorus makes the impact even greater, and then the chorus doesn't really sound out of place because the listener was sort of anticipating that it was coming by hearing the riser. It can also add ambiance and character to your track. The example I just showed you was obviously a trap beat, which is a bit more aggressive, sort of in your face. But something like an indie folk track, sound effects can be so effective in a different way. Here I'm using a coffee shop ambiance. And it adds so much to the track. First, it feels a bit empty without it, so it's filling some space that I thought needed to be filled, but it's doing more than just that. It adds more story and emotion to the track. There's a human element to it and a bit of mystery. I was actually really surprised when I started using sound effects a lot more and a lot more effectively, just how much they add to your production and how useful they can be in making your track sound full and cohesive. The fourth trick I wish I'd known when I started is layering, particularly kick layering. Do you ever get it where you're scrolling through kicks and you just can't find that specific kick that you've got in your head that you're looking for? Yes, you could try and mix a kick which sounds similar to what you've got in your head. You could try and add some effects to make it get that sound. But at times, the quickest way that I found to achieve a punchy kick with a bit of grit and high end, often because I want it to sound more realistic, is to layer kicks together. But to avoid them clashing, putting a low pass filter on the kick with the punch and the sub frequencies, and a high pass filter on the other one to add that bit of grit. Then when together, you've got a kick which is the kick that you were imagining in your head. This has helped me create a kick which I couldn't find in a lot of scenarios. It basically allows you to create your own. It gives you a more unique sound and tone by experimenting with different kicks and mixing them together. This next one is a bit of a niche and quite specific one, but I've included it because I think it sounds so good when it's used right. This one is most effective when you actually have an artist's vocal, but I've also used it with vocal samples. That is to have the vocal melody follow the melody of an instrument, or vice versa. So the example I've got here is where the synth lead imitates the vocal melody. This vocal sample that I made, I want in the intro, but not in the chorus, because it would clash with the artist's vocal. So here it is in the intro. When I close my eyes, it starts to make sense here tonight. but I want to have some continuity with the track, and I really like that melody. So I've played it on the synth, because that way it's still there and present in the track, and makes it more cohesive because they're imitating each other, but it still leaves room for the artist. When making beats, it's so important to learn and constantly remind yourself that you're making beats for an artist. The artist needs to have space on the track and needs to feel that space the first time when they listen to the beat. So often if I use a vocal sample, I use it quite sparingly and scarcely. I won't have it in the majority of the beat. Maybe I'll place it in the intro and maybe potentially in the bridge or a pre-chorus or something like that, and that's to leave space for the artist. But by having an instrument play that vocal melody, it gives the track something recognizable and catchy, while not being overbearing and interfering with the artist. It gives the artist something to latch onto in the beat. If you want to add some atmosphere to your tracks and fill that little bit of space which just needs something, then this 6th trick is the perfect one for you. Start adding a drone to your tracks. A drone is a note or few notes or chord which is played throughout. Now this obviously works better in some genres than others. I use it all the time in acoustic pop, folk, country instrumentals, but you can easily use it in trap and R&B as well. There are drone plugins that exist out there, but you can create them yourself. The simplest way of creating a drone is by using a preset in a free plugin. Here I've got Spitfire Audio's Labs. I'm in Glass Piano, which is free, and I use this North Star preset all the time. Pick 1 or 2 notes that work when playing throughout. You can literally just do this by ear. What it gives is a bit of tension and ambiance to the track. If you want to create your own drone, you can play a chord on a synth, slow it down a lot, chuck a heap of reverb and delay on it, and there we go, you've made your own drone. The 7th trick is to get a big wide sound. That is panning. If you want a big wide sound with the instruments that you record, like acoustic guitar, a great way to do that is either by recording it in stereo, so using 2 mics to record at 2 different positions, and then panning them left and right. Or if you've only got 1 mic, simply getting 2 takes of everything you record and panning them left and right. It will make your guitar sound really intimate and add a lot of depth and detail to your tracks. You can use panning on any instrument though. Synths sound great when they're panned. The important thing is to balance when panning. You don't want to be completely overloading one side. So if you have a couple synths, pan one slightly left, one slightly right, it will make the mix sound a lot more interesting, and also, funnily enough, adds more space to your tracks because then not everything is positioned in one place. The next trick is super simple. It's something to try when the melody you've created just hasn't quite got that feel or sound that you want. In those moments, try reversing it. Often that can spark new ideas, and in a lot of cases gives it a completely different sound, making it more unique and not like you've just played it in using MIDI on a keyboard. If it still feels dry and isn't giving you any sort of inspiration or ideas, then you can continue to experiment or play around with it in other ways, or just get rid of it. But I often find that once I've reversed the melody that I wasn't feeling that great about before, it leaves me feeling a lot more inspired with new ideas of what I can add or how I can make it better, and reversing gives a different effect. Now, staying on reversing for the 9th trick, but this is slightly different. This is reversing with chops. So if you want to reverse a piece of audio and you want to get that reverse effect, but you want to keep the order of the original audio, let's say you've got a chord progression and you want the chords to have that reverse rising effect, but obviously to match all the rest of the tracks, they've got to stay in the same order. Bounce or render out that region that you want to reverse. Then before reversing it, chop it at each bar, then highlight them all and reverse them. Now the audio is still in the same order it was before, but it's got the reverse effect. It's a really quick and easy way of doing both at the same time. This again gives a more unique sound. The final production trick that I wish I knew when I started, again, makes your beats sound a lot more professional and, importantly, more usable for the artist. Chopping up melodies and spreading them out. I used to add melodies to my beats that would just play throughout the whole verse or the whole chorus. What I found sounds better, and that it makes the whole thing sound more cohesive and better for an artist, is to split the melody up and space it out more. Don't have it playing for the full 8 or 16 bars. Leave gaps in space. Here's an example where I used a sax sample. The original sample sounds like this. And here's how I placed it into my beat. You can see I chopped it up in places and spread it throughout. That way there's more room for the artist and it makes more sense in the beat. It's effectively creating ear candy in the beat. Little melodic bits sprinkled throughout to keep the track interesting while leaving lots of space for the artist. This is honestly one of the most important lessons I've learned from producing. It takes away that amateur feeling from a beat, it entices the artist and makes the beat sound more attractive. Thank you so much for watching. Those are 10 production tricks that I wish I knew when I started. If some, or maybe even all of those, were helpful to you, please like and subscribe. And also feel free to join the producer Discord in the description. That's a place where we can learn more tricks and talk about just production in general. And actually there's some placement opportunities that I've posted in there for you and for me. So join that. And also if you're wanting some guitar samples, check the second link in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.